As a public service announcement, it's Mother's Day Sunday. Do not forget to get your mother something. Like I've done that. Good idea. Our last speaker is a futurist. And interestingly, she is just in the midst of changing her future for herself.
That's right.
She has a new baby. She just left her job. And I'll let her tell you more, but her name is Lina Yang. And Lina, I'm going to read your bio. She was, I guess. Are you one never stops becoming a futurist. You are?
No, yeah, it's a lifestyle, man. It's a theme.
So, futurist and founder of the Inksy Studio and former director of Advanced Technology Labs and Hershey Company. So she directs this, she directed this business unit. And the role combines strategic foresight, emerging tech, to proactively develop opportunities to create a preferred future. She brings a very broad perspective, built on many experiences working in nearly all facets of business. And she's very interesting. She loves food. She loves rock climbing. She plays the fiddle, and she's an adventurer. Please welcome Lina Yang.
Thank you. So yes, as Peter mentioned, I am a former futurist of the Hershey Company, and actually I'm so recent that I am in my third week of, should we just call it early retirement right now? But I saw in my future flexibility because, come on, who doesn't want to hang out a little bit more in this phase? But in the meantime, I created Inksy Studio, and that says what's next underneath it, because we're all friends here, right? Can I be honest? I'm afraid of what's going to happen to my mental capacity if all I do every day is sing Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round, right? So this is my space for mental play. It's a space where I can continue my futures work, but then also think about topics like today, which is the future of large corporations does not look good. Now, I did not realize that this was going to be such a theme, you know, at the on the big stage. But I think this is going to be very complimentary. So did most of you see Clayton Christensen's talk today? So I'm going to be referencing that a little bit as we go through. Okay, so first, did anyone read Jeff Bezos' annual letter to the shareholders this year? It's awesome, isn't it? Come on, who read it? Did anyone read it? Yeah, I totally recommend that you guys read it. And the key takeaway is that despite being in business for decades at this point, he insists that Amazon still operate as if it's day one. You know what day one is. It's the first day on the job. It's the first day that you started a company. It's that urgency and it's that passion to like move forward quickly and be really impactful, because the alternative is day two, and he describes it like this. Day two is stasis, followed by irrelevance, followed by excruciating, painful decline, followed by death, and that is why it is always day one. He goes on to say that a lot of companies can be in day two for decades, but that the result is the same. So my posit is that most large companies are and have been in day two, because otherwise, why would this be happening? Oh my gosh, this chart again, right? It's like, why do we keep showing this chart? So you guys already know this. It's the average tenure of companies that keeps declining, and this is the tidbit that I got out of the report, is that on average, an S&P 500 company is now being replaced about once every 2 weeks. What? There is disruption that is accelerating, and the losers are the large traditional corporations. So my question to you is this. Are you or your company in day two? So I'm going to be asking a battery of questions about your business. And I want you to think about, let's honestly assess, right? Because what stays in track 5, you know, what is said in thought in track 5 stays in track 5. But I want you to honestly assess you and your company's answers to these, all right? Are you guys ready?
Ready.
All right. What do you think when you see these logos?
Sadness.
Okay. What do you think when you see these? If you were thinking yeah, it's the disrupted versus disruptors. I can't believe she's talking about this. This is so yesterday. Well, then that is my watch out number one. Because either you don't think that it can happen to you, or it's that disruption is happening so frequently nowadays. And let's be honest, disruption as a word is so overused at this point, right? That you're kind of like, ugh. But that has lost its gravitas. You're probably desensitized to it. You don't have fear of it anymore, but you should. Because if you haven't been thinking about how your business can be disrupted in a comprehensive and surprising way, then I'm arguing that you probably haven't been thinking about it enough. This is the first thing that I did with my team at the business of every single business cycle every year. How would someone put us out of business? And I promise you, if you do this right, your eyes will be completely opened. And as innovation folks, you will find so many more new and cool opportunities. I promise you. And if it doesn't work out for you, that means you did it wrong. But let me show you something, give you an example of something that I actually found surprising, as it was happening. All right, so let's take the humble egg. Not only is it delicious on its own, but it's a key ingredient in a lot of things, right? So 5 years ago, if you were an egg producer, I bet you were thinking that you were pretty protected. I mean, this is the source of it. How much more basic can you be than an egg, right? And I bet you had a really great supply chain. So you're pretty streamlined. You're like, man, I'm sitting pretty. And then what came out? Does anyone? Beaters. Beaters? Well, in this example, I want to talk about Hampton Creek. Hampton Creek used plant protein to mimic the way an egg operates in mayo, right? So now we've got an eggless mayo, and they did it with cookie dough, so even eggless cookie dough. Then Clara Foods is a recent startup in the last several years. They are using plant protein to mimic egg whites. So anything that you need in egg white, like meringue, or in your baking things, now it can be eggless. And you can see their logo and the way they talk about it. This is just the very beginning for them. And then you have Follow Your Heart, who said, you know what, forget it as an ingredient. Let's just make an eggless scrambled egg. So now I wonder, when I take a look at this, like, were the egg producers planning for this? Were they expecting this? And then even worse, like, now that this is happening, are they doing anything about it now? Like, how are they thinking about their business and how they're going to protect themselves here? This is happening, all of these guys, because of synthetic biology. Now, synthetic biology, to me, is at the very, very cusp of, it's at the very, very beginning. Like, I think we have yet to see what the real potential is of synthetic biology. Now, there are a whole bunch of reasons why it's accelerating right now, but suffice it to say that if you are a food company, you should just assume that you can be synthesized. Now, I do have a bias against food, so I haven't really thought about a whole bunch of different industries, but if you're in another industry, I say that it would be a great exercise to say, wait a minute, how would synthetic biology disrupt us? It is totally worth the time and effort. Okay, let's move on to competition. Who keeps you up at night? Conjure something up in your head. Is it the 800-pound gorilla in your market? Maybe you're the 800-pound gorilla, so it's the next biggest guy in the room. It's the one that you've been, kind of jostling and battling with for share gains, quarter. Or is it more along the lines of this? This is what I call death by 1,000 bee stings. I mean, when I was at Hershey, this is what kept me up at night. And there are two groupings of this. So the first grouping would be, it's the gal at the end of the street who's making chocolate treats in the basement. It's the fact that I can't walk through Brooklyn without hitting a new sweets treats shop every block. It's the fact that I can't track these guys. These guys don't show up in IRI or Nielsen. So that was the first grouping of like, oh my gosh, these bees. And the reason this is happening is because of democratization. Meaning that it is easier and cheaper, more than ever, to start your own company and have all the assets that you need to just create something, right? So there's no evidence that would tell me that this is not going to stop. So in the future, I expect more bees, not less. So who are the bees in your industry? There's the second grouping of bees is around the idea of Hershey's happiness. So I have never, ever given someone a piece of chocolate, a Hershey candy bar, or a Hershey's Kiss and have them be sad or mad about it. Never. They're always happy, they're delighted, and now I'm thinking, wait a minute, if this is one of the jobs, right, of Hershey's, and it's this happiness delightful, what would actually be a competitor to that? So I start thinking about, is it music, the fact that you can just buy a piece of music, like immediately, which is actually pretty new in the last decade. I mean, remember a decade ago, you had to buy music like this. You had to go to the store, you had to go get it, all this sorts of stuff, right? Before you could actually enjoy it. And now it's just buy. Does that give you the same kind of delight? What else gives you the same kind of delight? That was my second grouping of competition. That's what kept me up at night too. So who are you thinking about? Is it the bees, the multiple bees, or is it still the 800-pound gorilla? All right, let's move to consumer. Who are you targeting? I am guessing that most of you are thinking, well, my company really wants me to win with millennials. And I gotta tell you guys, I genuinely do not understand that. I just don't get it. For years, I have not understood this. When a marketer would come to me and say, I need you to help me win with millennials, I would ask, are you talking about the 20-year-old who's still living in his frat house? Or are you talking about the 32-year-old who just became a new mom, right? Those are completely different. Now, in the past, you could talk about demographics, and that was just fine, because the trajectory of your life stages were pretty expected, right? You lived with your parents, you got an education, you started your career, you got married, you bought a home, you had kids, they left, they stayed away, you were an empty nester, and then you actually retired, in the home that you bought. Right? So what's happening nowadays? Well, nowadays it's a complete free-for-all, right? This almost should be like more circuitous than it is like linear. But you may not go to college until later. You might cohabit with somebody. You're changing careers along the way. You became a single parent, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Who thinks we're going to go back to this traditional life stage trajectory? Who thinks there's going to be more of this happening? So at the very least, doesn't life stage trump demographics? I mean, a 40-year-old new mom has more in common in terms of her needs as a 22-year-old new mom than the 40-year-old mom who's now an empty nester, right? But then I started thinking also about the complexity of consumers these days. And this is kind of new, so think with me here. So I think the consumer has become much more multidimensional. I think there's this aspect of free to be. Now more than ever, there is this individual expression that you can really identify yourself any way you want, right? But then there's still the basic human need of belonging. So there's the tribes, and there could be multiple. There are many tribes. And then the last aspect is this idea of fluid identity. Like for the most consumers, and think about yourselves, your Facebook persona is not the same as your LinkedIn persona, is not the same as you might act with one tribe, it might not be the same as you act with another tribe. Now you might say, but Lina, this has happened all the time, right? Yeah, that's true. Like, there was individual expression in terms of how your clothes. You always belonged in tribes. And there was always some kind of fluid identity. But I would argue that nowadays, because of technology and the way that because of technology, this is much more magnified, right? Back in the day, you could reach people through TV, and at that point, that was a one-size-fits-all. But now we're all carrying our individual TVs, right? You're carrying a computer, you're carrying your phone. You are carrying your command communication central, and it's individualized. So that kind of changes the whole aspect of that. So that's what I mean by magnify. That's why all of a sudden this stuff really matters. Okay, so the next several questions are about the company, kind of like the ethos of your company, how it behaves. And the first question is, what is your growth target? Are you all like running around with your chickens with heads cut off, trying to grow 5% in a category that's only growing 3%? So now it's not so much, see, I hear some snickering, right? Am I getting close to the heart? It's not so much that I care about the chickens with your heads cut off, because that's actually quite day one-ish, right? It's kind of cool that you're like, there's this path, there's this urgency there. I'm bothered by the incrementality of it. So you're putting all these resources, all of these people, all of this brain power against a bar that is just above stagnancy. If you're trying to grow at 3% and you're just barely like meeting inflation, well, you have to start thinking about where you're getting your growth now. Second question is your competitive still a competitive advantage? For example, let's talk about mass manufacturing. I mean, there was a time when mass manufacturing really gave you a true edge. Right? If you made it more efficiently than everybody else, you were winning. But I firmly believe that we are exiting that era, and we are actually entering into the era, and probably have been, in a digital era, an era that is personalized. Consumers are expecting things to be customized. And all of a sudden, mass anything doesn't seem so helpful. So what assets do you guys traditionally say is your competitive advantage? And is it truly a competitive advantage? Or worse, is it a hindrance? That's just one example. Question 3, are you a slave to the process? We talked about it, I heard them talking about it this morning's session. Who's got something like this? Come on, this is innovation. You guys have some funnel. I don't care if it's vertical, I don't care if it's horizontal. You have something that has some kind of gates, right? I just pulled this off the internet. There were so many to choose from. I was like, okay, this is good enough, right? There's so many. Do you own the process and make it work for you, or does the process own you? And there are kind of two signs for me of like, how I think like, maybe the process owns you. So imagine that you've had a mediocre launch, and the company is like, man, what the hell happened? This was supposed to be huge. It was supposed to be huge. So you guys go to your post-launch review, and people keep saying, but it got through all the gates, right? That might be sign number 1. And then in response to that, people go, maybe the process is wrong. We have to recreate the process. Let's redo the process. So now all of a sudden you have a new funnel, right? And it's like happening every other year. I mean, come on. How many people have worked at a company where you're just like, we have a new funnel process again? Yeah? All right, the last question. Are you a slave to Wall Street? This inherently means that you are short-term focused. There is no room for patience or long-term thinking or experimentation, all of which are critical to true innovation, right? Am I right? And yet everyone's really focused on the next quarter. Even if they say that their strategic cycle is 3 to 5 years, it's really the next 3 months. So my question to you is, are you in day 2? Now there are some of you who are thinking, no, we're totally in day 1, we're totally rocking it, it's awesome, great, how are you gonna stay there? And then there are a lot of you who are going, oh my gosh, we're in day 2, how do we get out of this? And that is where transformative futures comes in. That's where you have to start thinking transformatively. This is where truly understanding trends and leveraging and employing strategic foresight is really powerful. Now, a lot of companies don't actually even have this as a discipline in their organization, which is really a shame, because anticipating the future is really important. So if your company doesn't have a function like that, then it really makes most sense for the innovation folks to take up the charge. So what am I talking about here? So let's get some definitions straight here. So trends is what is happening, insight is why it's happening, and then the foresight is what could happen. Now I do see a lot of companies, they have a trends group, but then that's only 1/3. They're missing the other 2 pieces, which actually I think are equally, if not more important, the why and the what could happen. That's where, to me, the magic happens. So if trends are just what's happening, I talk about foresight like this. So you have the alpha. You can stay on your current trajectory. There's room for growth and constraint, but it's expected. Then there's beta. So I used to be a finance geek, so I borrowed this from their lingo. Beta stands for risk in finance, in the finance world. It's a decline from a current trajectory due to a disruptive negative impact. And the last one is delta, which stands for change, right? This is a disruptive positive impact. These are your new S-curves in your industry. It changes fundamentally your industry. Most companies, they operate in alpha. They think that they're doing delta and beta because they have these boundaries, but they're really not thinking about this. So let's take Blockbuster as an example. Blockbuster is hanging out in alpha, right? And all of a sudden Netflix comes in, starts out as a B, and they're like, wow, this is really kind of annoying. But Netflix was actually creating an entirely new S-curve, right? And now all of a sudden, Blockbuster finds themselves in a beta that they were not prepared for. The beta and the delta are opposites of each other. If you do your disruptive exercise and you go, oh my gosh, these X, Y, and Z can happen to us and we'll find ourselves in beta, you actually could be the one to then turn that into an opportunity and suddenly be the delta in your industry. The two go together. Don't just wait for beta to happen to you. You may as well start to become the delta. Let me give you 2 examples of transformative thinking. You guys know what this is, right? They're Legos. They had a really good business just working on Lego bricks, having their kits come out for decades. And then in 2003, they found themselves actually at the brink of bankruptcy. They were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with this business? And then the next several years, you started seeing things like their dimensions line. Are you guys familiar with this? This is their portal that allows for their physical products to, portal into the digital world, so now there's digital play. Then you started seeing things like the Lego digital designer. And what this is, that you design your whatever you want, and then they'll actually send you the bricks that you can actually build it in real life. And you guys all remember the Lego movies. They have video games now. And it turns out that in 2003, when the new CEO arrived, he created the Future Lab. Really created a future lab. It wasn't just the one person that they said, hey, you need to figure out, you need to start thinking transformatively. They really dedicated themselves to saying, we've got to figure ourselves out. So this future lab, turns out that they were thinking about well, who are we really? In this case, they could have easily said, we're just a toy company, so let's figure out what we can do. We're just toys. But instead, I think they really were able to experiment and ask the question of who are we really? And they realized we're so much more than this. We are all about creative play, and we're about imagination. And now all of a sudden, they have this ecosystem, and a decade later, they've become a juggernaut in the toy industry. They understood what the job was. On the flip side, you have our friends Kodak. They decided that they were in the film industry and that was the job versus being more. That Kodak moments and generating those memories was actually the job that they were supposed to be fulfilling. So my last question for you then is, who do you want to be? Thank you.